Welcome to Earth Chats. In this show, we chat to leaders, influencers, and organizations who are passionate about making our Earth a better place. We are all aware of the dangers of pollution and how global climate change could impact our lives. Join us and listen to the conversation where leaders in making our world better will share their stories, advice, and opinions. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to join us and let's take hands to save our planet and make our world a better place. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Earth Chats. Today, we're talking to Dawn Jorgensen. Dawn is a well-known South African blogger, and her blog's name is the Incidental Tourist. Welcome, Dawn, to Earth Chats.
Thanks so very much for having me. I'm greatly honored.
So, as a traveler, I can see from your blog and just from you are used to travel. How's this lockdown affecting you?
I'm actually quite enjoying it, to be honest. I think I'm one of the few people that might say it, but I think it definitely is very scary, and definitely a time to look at the fragility of life and of the planet, and what matters. And so as far as not traveling, I just have in my heart the sense that we will travel again, and it might not be the same, but we will travel again. But for now, that's definitely not a priority to me. For now, the priority is family, quality time with family, writing. I have a lot of stories that I can tell, and just sort of addressing my own life and what I do and the impact that I do or don't have on the environment. And so I have been very busy with some projects, but I'm also taking the time to just think a little bit, which I don't think is a bad thing.
All right, that's awesome. So, Dawn, can you give us a bit of background about yourself and how you became involved with environment? Your love for the environment and also sustainable travel.
Absolutely. So just as a bit of background, I am from the Free State. I grew up in the Free State. And then when I finished school as an exchange student, I went to Israel and ended up staying there for 4 years. And that is where my 2 children were born. And then came back to South Africa. And I think that I've just always had this intense love for for the environment, for animals. I grew up in a family where we always had all sorts of animals or were rescuing an animal. It was just something that we really had this amazing respect for life. And that was always something that was a part of my makeup. And then I think I'd never really had an opportunity to travel except for those long, wonderful family road trips or, picnics at Golden Gate and things like that we would do as a family. And then having lived in Israel and had this complete culture shock, when I came back, I had this hunger to see more of the world. But I didn't have the money, so it was something that started very slowly, little road trips, weekends in self-catering cottages. And as I did that and always found an excuse to be a tourist in my own backyard and eventually coming to live in the Cape Winelands, there was just so much to see and to enjoy, but always with that connection to nature, wanting to see the ocean, wanting to see the mountains, wanting to go and walk and find waterfalls or whatever it was. So, and then I think that it's just evolved. My background had me working actually at Demersfontein Wine Estate for 4 years, where I ran the guest house and organized weddings, which was emotionally very draining, but very lovely. But yeah, wedding planning isn't for sissies. And then, so staying in Wellington, I lived in Wellington for 20 years and on a farm. And then I started a tour operating business, which I ran for more than 10 years. And then through that was very lucky that I was able to start traveling within Africa, because I was selling these incredible experiences to incoming tourists, to people who wanted to experience Namibia or the migration in the Serengeti, whatever it was, I was then able to sometimes travel with them or to go and see different places and form relationships with different lodges and game reserves so that I could in turn send clients there. And I think that was really something that I'm so grateful that I was able to do. And it really opened my eyes to the wonders of wildlife and game, but also the challenges of game management, of looking after reserves, anti-poaching issues, community issues. And then all of a sudden, this intense love for being on a safari could not just be that shallow, beautiful opportunity to take a photo of a lion or whatever it may be, because there's so many layers and there's such depth to what is happening at any game reserve with, you know, wildlife human infringement, and there's just a lot of issues, which I'm sure you know. So that was where it started for me. And then I madly decided to sell a really lovely business and start a travel blog, because everyone knows that that's a crazy thing to do if you have any business sense at all. But I did it because I just, this need to write, and I have no training, I'm not a trained writer, but just this need to write was, and to share and to start some kind of conversation about what was happening was so overpowering that I was just driven to do this. I think being hosted as a tour operator and with guests at these incredible places around the Southern Africa mostly, there were so many stories that were shared with me, and I just kind of needed a platform to start in my own very modest way to share those. And then I started the Incidental Tourist, and I took any money that I may have made on the sale of my business, which is still going strong. I sold it to a colleague and she's worked wonders with it, more than I probably ever would have. And then I started the Incidental Tourist, which initially it was just this platform where I would say neutrally, I'm not selling anything, but I love travel and I love African travel. And let me debunk some of these misconceptions about travel in Africa. So let me write these stories. And it was this passion-driven project until eventually I realized that more than just my mom and my children who were obligated were reading it. And that people were actually engaging with me and saying that they were taking lessons. And the more I did this, and the more my interest in conservation issues, environmental issues grew, and the more I used the platform as a balance between, look how amazing this destination is, wherever it may be, and we really need to be more responsible about travel. I think that it grew to ever evolving, and I was evolving, and I was learning, and I was changing. And I think at the same time, with the Incidental Tourist being such an extension of me, so was the blog. So that's kind of my background.
Oh, that's interesting. So your readership, you say obviously everyone starts with, you know, like you said, your mom and your family reading it, but what's your readership today in terms of demographics? Where do most of the readers come from?
So it's quite broad. At the moment, I've got about, the last time I looked, which I had to do for something, there were only about 38% were South African, and then about 20% were American, and then kind of widely spread across different places, you know, a lot of Europe, and then some, you know, India, a little bit of Australia, some Thailand, because I've worked with the Thailand tourism authority for the last 4 or 5 years, so I have a bit of a readership there, and I have a lot of content around Thailand. So yeah, those are the demographics, and very evenly spread between male and female, and then the readership is most of it is actually from sort of 25 to 45, 55, which I think I'm trying to write for, mature is such a horrible word, but you know, like I know, I mean, it's getting used around me quite a lot at the moment, which I'm having to accept. But like, I think I'm trying to write for an audience that isn't looking to grab a backpack and, like in the heydays that seem to be no longer, you know, pre-corona heydays, get a backpack and just travel around for a year. That's not really ever been my market, although of course that is an audience that I want to maybe take note of some of the recommendations about being better travelers. But it's really been for the more the traveler who's planning that trip of the annual holiday or the trip of a lifetime. And so, yeah, it is an older, probably more, people who can actually afford to go to destinations that I'm promoting. So I'm very lucky in that.
Well, that's awesome. One of the concepts in your blog is this whole concept of ecotourism.
Yes.
Can you explain a bit more to our listeners what that is and what it means?
So for me, it's really, ecotourism is really about treading very gently on the environment and on the communities that you might find yourself in as a traveler. So to opt for very sustainable practices, and just, I mean, how I interpret it is to travel more ethically with more of a consciousness of where you are. So it's not that, it's a selflessness. It's not about, look at me, I'm taking a selfie, I'm so cool, now I'm going to move on to the next spot. It's really about being present and wanting to tread very gently on the world. So you want to go, it's a privilege to travel, it's a privilege to be there. You're going to take the more sustainable options. You're going to look and do some research beforehand on which accommodations in the area are supporting communities or have conservation efforts if that's so it's really about community conservation and environmental. Those are sort of the three categories, and I always bring in that any unethical behavior such as engaging with wildlife or riding elephants or anything like that is an absolute no-go. So that's just really the ethos. It's more ethical tourism and in a more sustainable way.
Well, that's awesome. So, one of the things that I thought about when you say that is that, and I think this is a conundrum for everybody that wants to travel ethically. One of the big things is to really travel the world, you do need to fly. And flying is such a huge contributor to carbon emissions. So how do you balance those things in an environmental, let's go, well, I think the question is, how do you create a sustainable or environmental travel plan?
So this is obviously going to always be an issue, but I mean, it's not an argument. And I think that we have to accept that, like cars, which contribute sort of 10% of carbon emissions in the world, airplanes are also, they contribute 2 to 3% of carbon emissions in the world. And there's no real way around that if you want to be a traveler and do long haul destinations. So I think things that we can do to feel a bit better about it is not travel, think about why we're traveling, where we're going, think about the fact that we're getting on a plane, think about the impact that might have. You don't want to be on a plane. I had years where I was on 40 or 45 flights a year, and it didn't matter how many trees I was planting on, weekends away with green papa. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm a really terrible person. But, so really think about the trips that you're doing. I've cut mine in half, more than half. But there are ways that you can do it. Look to airlines that have a newer fleet because they have much lower emissions. And this is really something that airlines are under a lot of pressure. This is all pre-COVID that I'm talking. But most of them have newer fleets, lower emissions. When you are on a plane, try and take the most direct route. So, sometimes it's a bit more expensive, but if you can take a 10-hour flight as opposed to going right around the world to get to the same place in 22 hours to save 1,000 rand, think about the environment, take the more direct flight. Don't take a lot of luggage, because airplanes, the emissions are directly related to how heavy the plane is. And then there are little things that you can do beyond the actual carbon emissions when you are flying. Take all the things that you're going to need in the plane. Take your own headphones, your own water bottles, your own blanket. Put the little thing down at the window so that because of saving light. I mean, I know it sounds very over the top, but if you live consciously, and imagine if every single time you get on a plane, if you're a business person or if you're a regular traveler, and you are taking a blanket out of a plastic wrapper and you're taking headphones that are going to get used once, and you're using, you know, like 6 plastic cups. No, you can actually already be making a difference by just consciously being aware of that. So and then there are programs that if you really feel bad, there are programs that plant trees, so you can calculate what your carbon footprint is on every trip. So you can say, okay, I've gone from, you know, Cape Town to Johannesburg to Casablanca, and I've been back again, and so that is the equivalent of whatever. And now if I can pay to plant like 5 trees, I'll feel better about it. So there are ways just to ease your conscience. And yeah, but it's just, once you're in a destination, also take train rather than plane for the little hops. You see more of the landscape. So it's that consciousness that I mentioned earlier. It's just being aware, but we can't really avoid that getting on a plane for long haul destinations. So maybe those few tips will help a little bit.
Apologies for the short interruption, but I do need to mention something. We really need to raise awareness about the dangers facing our environment. The Earth Chat podcast was started as a campaign to bring people together to save and protect our planet for generations to come. To make it easier for everyone to access our content and the advice shared by leaders in our mission for a better world, we have created a new website where you can access all our shows and featured articles. Visit us today on earthchats.bitmedia24.com, where you will find loads of interesting and insightful information, as well as tips and ideas of how you can participate in our mission of a better Earth. Here is that link again, earthchats.bitmedia24.com. Now, on with the show.
So Dawn, also you have a section on your site that says Travel with Dawn. What is Travel with Dawn?
I have this great idea, which is obviously on hold at the moment, like everyone else's life. But I find that when I travel, and a lot of my trips have been media trips, except in the last 2 years, I've really focused more on personal trips. But I really seem to have access to the most incredible places and people. And mostly with this conversation that comes about which surrounds sort of sustainability and communities in the places that I visit. So they too travel with Dawn. Firstly, because my background is tour operating, and I still work with a local tour operator. So if anyone wants any help with planning trips, I can help that. I'm very experienced in Southern and East Africa. I've traveled there extensively, and I've organized trips in those areas for very long. The other idea is that I would love once or twice a year to take a group of people to a place and give them a Travel with Dawn kind of experience, which will be different. So maybe if you want to go to Rishikesh in India, and I went on a retreat there, and it was a yoga retreat, and I met these incredible people. And so plan something that brings you access to individuals and a deeper exposure to the destination because I've been there and because I've established networks there. So that is something that I would like to do. Obviously, I don't know when that's going to happen now, but I think it would be nice. I think it would just be, let's do things my way. And my way doesn't have to be the right way, but I think that it may just have that more gentle approach to it, and very much a community base. But if people want luxury, sustainability doesn't mean no luxury. There are ways to work around everything.
Sounds like an awesome idea. I think there's a big difference between visiting a place and experiencing it.
Yeah, I think so. And I am a big advocate for guides. I love guides, and I speak to strangers. All that stuff my mother told me about don't speak to strangers went out the window. I always speak to strangers. all the time. But I am very aware that a lot of travelers only get to speak to their Uber driver or the person who checks them at the hotel or whatever it is. And it's just simply not enough to unlock a destination. So I think that if you have a couple of local people that are living there, or you can go and eat in someone's home, or you can, like what I mentioned, Rishikesh, I met this amazing guy who runs motorbike tours. So you can like rent a motorbike for sort of 50 rand and go off and, into the slopes of the Himalayas and do wonderful things and look for tigers and hope you don't find them because you're on a motorbike. But there's so many things that you can have access to, or walks, or things that have already been sussed out, especially to destinations that I've been to more than once, where I'm feeling quite comfortable and at home. So hopefully one day that will be possible.
Awesome. So something else that's exciting that you're busy with is your first book. That must be quite a project. You want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, it's kind of top secret. No, it's not top secret, but I haven't said anything about it to anyone because, I want to hold it in my hands first, which I'm sure you can understand. But I was late last year, I was approached by a New York publisher, a division of Macmillan Publishing, and asked if I would be interested in writing a book. And it was one of those emails that I kind of checked that this was addressed to me. So I was thinking, is this really happening? Because that's a dream come true. I think for any writer or anyone at a blog or a platform like mine, that is your ultimate. So I've been working with the most amazing editor, and it's called The Joy of Wanderlust, and it's looking at the world, and together we chose 100 destinations, and it's going to be this beautiful coffee table book where very photo heavy, just gives you probably like an intro to the destination that we're talking about, and then some little anecdotes or quotes. So I've actually submitted the manuscript in early February, and it was meant to come out in June or July, but as we know, things are delayed, but it should come out probably September or October. So I'm really happy about that. I get so excited and I've been freelance writing as well as blogging for years now, but I still get such a thrill when I see any of my work in print. So I think that there'll definitely be a celebration when I actually get to have my first book and it has my name on the cover. So thank you for asking about that. That's a very big deal for me.
Oh, that's awesome. So you've also won numerous awards. Probably that's why this publisher contacted you. And I looked on your website, and there's too many to mention. So, tell us about them and which of these mean the most to you?
They all mean a lot to me because I never ever take for granted anything. I don't take for granted that people read my blog or are interested in me or what I have to say or care. And so if I get listed on, South African bloggers or anything like that, I'm so grateful and appreciative. But I think there are always those standout moments. And I think one of those that really thrilled me and still does is when I was listed as one of the top 10 African bloggers, because Africa is it's not one place, it's this amazing continent that's filled with interesting countries, and I just love being associated with Africa, even though I do a lot of travel elsewhere. I think I am African, South African, and so that was very important to me. And then I think I got I was also got was the finalist in the African Travel Blog Awards, which was important. But then I think, having lived in the Winelands for 20 years, I got the Cape Winelands District Municipality Mayoral Award a year or two ago, it's a discretionary award which they give to someone who has had a great impact on the tourism industry in that region. And so Jorgensen is Franschhoek, Wellington, Paarl, that whole region. And that meant a lot to me because I've been working in tourism for 20 years in hospitality and then tour operating and then with the writing and the blog. And it's always nice to be recognized on home turf because, that's your core, that's your community. But as I say, I'm grateful for all of them.
Oh, that's awesome. So I saw you were also recently included in the Women in Home South African Amazing Women, let's call it Young Women's Awards.
I have to tell everyone how old I was, and I was like, oh my goodness. So yeah, so that was kind of really beautifully done by the person who wrote the feature, Stephanie. She just dropped me a little email and said, hey, we're featuring some bloggers, can I ask you some questions? Which I did, and you know, that was it. And then I knew it when it was coming up, but it turns out that it was actually Women in Home are recognizing 40 women over 40, and I'm much over 40, for contributions to in our different fields. So I fall under social influences, where they've got someone who does fashion and food and fitness, and I am travel, but obviously with a strong leaning towards ecotourism and conscious travel. So they will have science and politics and all different sectors, and that's out, yeah, in the current Woman at Home, and I'm extremely grateful. That's amazing. So yeah, thanks. That was such a lovely surprise.
That's awesome.
And it's good, you know, that women over 40, you know, we used to be considered over the hill by then, but now we're thriving and flying our flag and following our passions, and it's really nice to be recognized for that.
This is true, right? In a modern world, women is making the world go round, and I don't think women always get the credit for what they are achieving, but things are changing.
Thank you. I think so. And look, I'm not necessarily a feminist. You know, I believe more in community and in individuals, and you know, in the individual contribution and the individual way of life. So I'm not going to advocate for women just because they're women. I think that we're all doing our best and we're all doing what we can. But it is very, very nice to see a shift, even in places like Hollywood, where women over 40 are really being celebrated and being held up as examples and as role models. And it's good. I mean, age is literally just a number. It's all about the mindset, the contribution. You know, imagine if we all crumbled at 40, it would be a mess. So I think it's good. It's inspiration to keep moving and keep following that dream. I mean, no, dreams don't have a time span or an sell by date. Dreams are dreams. You need to keep chasing them.
I totally agree with you. Now, you know, one of the things that's been messing up everybody's dreams a little bit in the short term has been the coronavirus. And I think it's forcing everyone to rethink I think it's a massive opportunity, but it's also forcing all of us to rethink our organization models. Do you have any new plans or ideas in this regard?
I think for me, moving forward, I'm going to I think travel has changed, and I think that it won't be the same again. I think I've kind of coined the phrase, you know, green is the new luxury. I'm really hoping that the good thing that will come out of this bad situation is that people will hopefully be kinder to the environment, and that will include their travel plans. So I'm hoping that people will be kinder to each other and kinder to themselves. And when they do plan trips, that they do so with a focus, maybe to gain a lesson or to have an experience, as opposed to just tick destinations off their list with no regard to the places that they're at. So maybe we'll have more slow travel. I know that when I travel again, it will be to hang out with my family, probably get a self-catering cottage near the beach, so we can be safe and take our own stuff and drive ourselves and just be together. And when I travel beyond our boundaries or beyond our borders, it will again be to see loved ones, because I have friends and loved ones around the world, and that's going to be my focus. So, but you know, I just think we need to just tread gently, and this is definitely an opportunity for us to think about the virus, where the virus came from, about trade in wildlife, about wet markets, about what is driving us, our behavior when we are on the road or when we are posted in different destinations. And please, think and be more sustainable in our practices.
So on that point, if you have one message for people at home about the environment and how they can make a difference, what would that message be?
I think it's just that we need to live with a consciousness. We need to tread gently on the world. We must not have this mindset that I'm an individual and I can't make a difference. We are all making a difference. We can all make a difference through our actions. You know, I'm vegetarian. I'm kind of on the other militant side of trying to live a good life and a conscious life. But we could eat less meat. We can recycle. We can plan. We can support local. We must look after small businesses, and just actually appreciate the person who's cooking the food, the person who's delivering the food, and you know, I think just take actions. We've learned from this horrible virus that the actions that we take today, like wearing a mask, washing our hands, impacts the future of our family, our friends in 10 days or 2 weeks' time. And I think in the same way that the action that we take today for the environment as responsible citizens and as conscious living people will have an impact on the environment in 20 years' time and beyond that. And so I think that is what we should be doing. It's work.
That's awesome, Dawn. If our listeners are sitting there and they want to get hold of you or want to connect, how do they do that?
Well, my blog is theincidentaltourist.com, and I am at dawn@theincidentaltourist.com, and on all my social media I am Dawn Jorgensen, which is Jorgensen, but all the links are on my website.
Okay, we'll put all the links obviously in the description as well. Dawn, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for sharing all your insights, and yeah, it was lovely. Thanks.
I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you for the interest, and yeah, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. We need it at the moment more than ever.
Thank you for listening to today's show. We are grateful for everyone listening to our podcast and appreciate your interest in saving our planet. Please be sure to subscribe and follow us on the links below. It would also be extremely helpful if you could share the show and all your links with your friends and family. Bless all of you and bless our earth.